Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Generation X Tech. My name is Rich. I'm the channel host, and we talk about all the technologies that have developed through the Generation X period. And I'm an Xer. I'll always be an Xer. I grew up in the 70s. I remember dial tone phones and, poor TV quality, all those types of things. But everything has evolved, and the mobile technology that we've gotten to today is absolutely incredible. Now, today we're going to talk about a failure that then sort of became a success. We're going to talk today about the Apple Newton, its rise, its horrible fall, and then its sort of comeback if you can count all the iPods and iPads out there. So, here we go, folks. Let's go back to the 1990s. For me, 1993, I was an undergraduate, and one of the students who was actually sitting in front of me in my political science class, Paul, had purchased himself an Apple Newton. So it launched in 1993, and it was way ahead of its time, but in the same way that wearing parachute pants is ahead of its time, not the good kind. So the Newton was one of the world's first digital personal assistants. Remember PDAs? It was supposed to do it all, organize my life, take notes for me in class, and recognize my handwriting. Watching over Paul's shoulder, I can tell you it never recognized his handwriting. Not ever. So that's where the things got a bit wonky. You see, the Apple Newton's handwriting recognition was more like, well, hieroglyphics. You'd write lunch with Bob, and you'd get something else like launching Bob. Despite its noble ambitions and its $700 price tag, clunky design, unique handwriting skills, it really didn't work for folks. And I noticed that my friend stopped using it a couple of days in class. So, there's so many issues with it that there is actually an episode on The Simpsons. If you made it to The Simpsons, you've really made it in a good way or a bad way. So after about 5 years, I think it's a little less than that, but in research, about 5 years, 1998, the Newton died and was no longer available. So that's where the iPod, the iPhones, the iPads come in, because while Newton really blew it on being a tablet, Apple moved forward just a bit. So when it seems like Apple's dreams of portable computing were doomed, the iPod in 2001. I got one. I got one right away. My ex got one too. They're great. You could load up all the music you wanted. So unlike the Newton, where it was doing a bunch of things, the iPod was a simple thing. It was play me music, store me music. There you go. So put thousands of songs in your pocket that you're never gonna listen to unless you just put it on constant play. It also didn't have to have any handwriting, so that was absolutely awesome, and I think was the right way to go with the iPod. So the iPod did pave the way for Apple coming into the mainstream marketplace. Finally, then the iPhone in 2007, a phone, iPod, and an internet device all in one. Well, that's awesome. And most importantly, you didn't need to rely on handwriting recognition. And there was sort of a keyboard. I mean, it's a touchscreen keyboard, but they give you a keyboard. So once the iPhone conquered the entire world, Apple decided to give the tablet another shot in 2010 with the iPad. I got one. People scoffed at first, it's a big iPhone, but then they bought millions of them. The moral of the story, bigger sometimes does equal better, but, not all the time. So what was the secret to the success of the iPods and iPhones compared to that Newton, right? Well, Apple learned a lot. First, keep it simple. People want to play music, call their friends, browse the internet, not fight with a stylus. But they brought the stylus back, so I don't know. The second part was timing of doing all this. So by the time the iPhone and the iPad had arrived, the world was finally ready. So the Newton was just too early. So lastly, there is good marketing that went on with it. Let's face it, nobody was lining up blocks away to buy the Newton, but the iPhone, the iPad, People camped out for those like they were going to the next Star Wars movie. And while the Newton was a failure, it really did hit it hard. It did open up the way for the idea of personal digital assistants and mobile tools, mobile tech. And so that little bit of time from 1993 to 2001, it was close. So sometimes, we all fail and we learn from the failures and we move on, right? Yeah. So who knows? Maybe one day we'll look back at the Newton as the grandparent of modern tech and mobile tech, and we'll thank that awkward grandparent for starting to lead the way, but could never live up to doing something on Facebook. All right, everybody. The biggest failures do lead to the biggest successes, and I think we have to give the Newton a pat on the back for doing a pretty good job starting us down the path. And that green screen, that was just a joke. I felt so bad for Paul. He spent so much on that. It happens, right? Yeah, it happens.